Hello, welcome to Hack and Hustle, where we explore the ups, downs, lessons learned in the cybersecurity world of sales and marketing. With a deep dive on a new topic each week, I'm Anthony Johnson.
And I'm Brad Rager. And this week, we'll be talking about networking strategies to land your next job. All right, Anthony, this world that we're in, I feel like what's old is new again. Networking, I don't think it ever went away, but it's back and forth. There's a lot of people in the job market right now. I feel like the default system of hopping on LinkedIn and dropping a resume is just not working for a lot of people. So we wanted to talk about, in your career and with the folks that you work with, what are you seeing work? What am I seeing with the candidates that we work with at Crux? And are there some pointers that we can share with folks to help network in and use their networks to land their next job and accelerate their careers?
Yeah. So, and as we get into it, I think, it's important to call out some of the challenges that I think have kind of emerged over the past, let's call it 4 years. And this is particularly impactful for people early in their career, right? Yeah. When you and I graduated college, many centuries ago, right? Like you actually would go out. And it's funny, if somebody graduated college in 2020, 2021, they weren't. They literally could not go out and network. So these skills of building in person, how do you do it? They just they missed those formative years, right?
Yeah.
And it's only going to get worse because if you couldn't, you had to build some of those skills in high school. And I feel bad for kids who couldn't even do that in high school, right?
Yeah, there was no social media when we were in high school.
there was not.
You spent time with people.
Right? And so, I think this is a really important topic for people, especially, younger, early in their career. Of I hear the word networking. What does it mean? What does networking mean to you?
I feel like networking gets used as a verb, and it almost sounds like, I think a lot of people get the sense that it's something disingenuous. It's something that's, I'm only spending time with you because I want something from you. And so I think it can almost develop this kind of salesy, kind of a, I don't know, an image to it, right? And I think in cybersecurity, let's be honest, right? We have a lot of people who probably have an inclination to be perhaps a bit more introverted, and where the idea of networking, it just feels like work. It feels like a slog. It maybe doesn't come naturally to a lot of folks. So I don't think you have to think about it that way, though. I think about networks as building connections with people, and all humans want to have connections with people. That's how we're wired. That's how we're built. And we all feel good when we help each other, right? Like the giving is almost always a better feeling than the receiving. We know that from holidays and birthdays and everything else in our lives. And so I think part of networking is not thinking about it as a job to be done, although there are elements to that we'll talk about. But really, how do you connect with humans in a way that, if you're in the job, can be helpful for you in growing your career? But that's the outcome, but it's not the sole purpose. And people don't want to feel like they're being sold to. People don't want to feel like they're being used, but they do want to be helpful. And I think it's about finding that right balance.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I think I think you're right. I think I actually just pulled up the etymology of the word. So as soon as we kind of started talking, I'm like, I wonder what the etymology of it, right? And it's a net-like arrangement of threads, wires, anything formed in the manner of or presenting the appearance of a net or netting, right? And it goes further, talking about the complex relationships of interlocking systems and all that type of stuff. And that's really what it is, right? It's not this disingenuous fake thing. I think I view networking as a verb, right? It's a noun,
Yeah.
but in the sense of a verb of like, you have to be purposeful with it, right? When you're purposeful with it, you are connecting those threads. You are building that connective tissue. But you do, everyone who's out there networking, like, you shouldn't be like, what can I get from everybody, right? Like,
Right.
it's establishing the connection. And in some cases, like, we exist to sometimes we're there to be helpful to somebody, and sometimes we're there to be helped.
Yeah.
But you have to be part of that fabric to kind of,
Right.
be on either side of that coin. But networking
Yeah.
is really, really important skill.
Yeah. And I think it's incredibly important today. I mean, we kind of live in this world where the system seems to be set up for people to get jobs by, hopping on a job board or hopping on LinkedIn, entering keywords, searching for jobs, doing, research on Glassdoor, tidying up their resume, running it through Chat GPT, optimizing it for a job description, and uploading it, right? And then hoping they get to a first round interview out of that. And when you look at the stats of that, I mean, there's so many jobs that have north of 500 applicants. Well, guess what? Recruiters on the other end, they're not reading through 500 resumes. They're using systems to rank those. In those systems, there's hundreds of them out there. The logic that they use and the models that they use and the algorithms that they use are all different. So you end up in this world where there's a ton of noise and not a lot of clear patterns on what's happening. And a lot of times, even if they're getting 500 applications, who's floating to the top? It's the 4 people that had somebody internally email HR and be like, "Hey, I saw this role was open. I got a great person for you to talk to."
Well,
right?
that's exactly it, dude. And it's so telling. What I find actually really funny about this right now, Brad, is that it's 2024, and I was talking to a candidate, and she was like, "Well, there are these new resume formats that you use to like subtly add meta tags with all the keywords so that these automated systems can pick you up." And I was like, a quarter of a century ago, so 25 years ago, Monster.com was founded, right? And
Yep.
if you remember, at the end of your resume, you just put a shit ton of keywords in there so it would like pick your resume up, right? And 25 years later, we're like, oh, no, we use AI and we just embed the keywords in meta tags. But it's the same shit that we were doing 25 years ago.
It's the same thing. And, I'm not going to say don't spend time trying to hack the system and, look at those things that you can do to get keyword matches into your resume. I'm not going to say not to do that, but I think there's a lot of people that are inclined to fall down rabbit holes on the internet researching
100%.
the best ways to do that, when I would argue their effort and energy should be spent getting out of their office and talking to people and being on the phone and connecting with old friends and in networking. And that is, if you look at who is landing in jobs today and you were to poll them, how did you find that job?
Yeah.
9 times out of 10, the story is going to be, well, I had a friend that I knew, they knew that I was in the job, or I had somebody that I worked with, or something along those lines. That is how people are actually finding jobs.
Yeah. Like that's the reality of it, right? Because networking isn't just with going to a conference and randomly talking to strangers. It's networking within your own company, within your social groups. It's building that connectivity so that when the opportunity pops up, and it could be a promotion as well, but when that opportunity pops up, your name comes up as part of the conversation, right?
Yeah.
And so, when it comes to these new jobs, somebody looking for a new role, you have to or want to have started, curating, managing, building that network well in advance, right? It's almost like you're going to go fishing with a net. You don't want to start building that net when you're on the boat,
No, no.
right?
And, and I think that's the distinction here is networking is not an on off thing. Like as we live our lives, as we do our jobs, we build connections with people. And it's great to just keep those connections alive over time, right? And active. Check in with people because then when you are in a position where maybe you are looking for a job, you are in the market, you want to kind of poke your head up and see what's out there, or you've left your current place. That's when having that network of folks is really helpful. And that's when you can have those conversations where you are asking for something, you do need some help. And the advice that I always give people is that's when you want to be really thoughtful and really specific about what you're looking for and what you want so you can
Yeah.
help people who want to help you, but you got to help them, right? So spend time with people in your career that have been great at giving advice, mentors, other connected people, ask them for their thoughts and inputs, but fairly quickly I encourage people to have a good sense of what companies they're interested in working for,
Yeah.
what roles they would be a good fit for, what they think their own skills and strengths are. And if you can arm people that genuinely want to help you with that information, that's how you do it. And then they can connect you with other people and you can almost run it like a process where you actually keep track of here are the places that I want to work, here's what I want to do, here are the people that I've talked to, who they connected me to, and make sure you're following back with thank yous and follow-ups and things like that. And yeah, that's running it as a process, but it's actually great because you're helping people that you've established relationships with in the past who genuinely want to help. You're helping them help you. That's how I think.
I think you're spot on. I think the other piece, and I'm going to say something that people aren't going to like here in just a second, but like you can't always and only network up, right? It's important to network up to people who are in more senior positions, something you want to aspire to be, do, whatever. People who are in peer positions, right? And people who are in more junior positions and roles, right? I think It's important to cast a wide net because you're going to help some people. And you'll be surprised. I think that, people would be surprised when somebody junior approaches them and is like, hey, my boss was asking me, or somebody was looking for a new role, and I'm obviously not qualified, but I think you might be a fit, right? Like the opportunities come from all over, but you touched on something that I think is really interesting, and I think that people have to accept that it's work. Like
it is work.
You have to do it with purpose, and there isn't an easy button for it.
No.
Right? Like you got to be deliberate. Like you said, you have to have a process. You think through it, execute it. Because if you don't, you just kind of get whatever you get.
Yeah. Yeah. And there is an element, there's definitely an element of serendipity. You kind of must be present to win is absolutely true. And it is absolutely the case that you can go to conferences and you can end up at a bar and have a beer next to somebody who ends up being a great friend or a client or an employer, or, you never know. So those aren't bad things, but you can do better than just bouncing around as well. Right. Like, and that's where I see a lot of people fall short is not approaching it with any degree of thoughtfulness about who do I want to talk to? How do I talk to them? And then finding way in those of conversation to get in there is not just, hey, I want you to help me, but also really being genuinely interested in helping other people, because people want to help people who want to help them. Right.
Yeah, totally. And I think that, what you'll see sometimes, especially let's talk about networking at conferences, right? People they'll go to a conference, and if they don't have a plan, which is okay, right? That's not the way I would do it, but if you don't have a plan, and sometimes they'll show up and be like, my goal is to have a good time. Awesome. Have a good time. Right. if your goal is to show up and actually network and meet people, you can still have a good time. You might not have as good of a time because there is a level of deliberate, hey, this has been great. There's someone over here who's just been telling this amazing story, or someone over here I really want to connect with and meet. And so you kind of have to prioritize how you're going to network and what your objective is, right? So how does this is by doing that, does that just naturally turn into jobs? Do you have to tell everyone that is it telling them what you love doing and then having them think of you? Is it, if somebody's out on the job market today and they haven't done any networking, like how do they start and get into it? What do you think?
I think the first piece is knowing yourself and knowing what you want and having a story. You got to have a story, right? You have to be able to articulate to people, here's what I'm good at. Here's what I want to do. Here's where I've been. And here's why people should be interested. Because what you're doing then is you're arming people with the elevator pitch for you. And then you say, like, these are the types of jobs that I want. These are the types of companies. These are the specific companies I'd love to work at. And then that gives people the ability to say, oh, I know somebody over there. Let me make that connection point, right? Because they're going to spend a little bit of their social capital making a connection between you and somebody else. But if you do that and you try and get maybe 1 to 2 downstream connections out of any of those conversations, when you're really, really in the job market, then you can run it and keep track of it like a spreadsheet and run it as a process, right? And I found that people are often incredibly open to having those conversations, and even if they haven't met you in the past, are open and willing to help. If you are an approachable person, an interesting person, a giving person, and somebody who also is interested in helping them and contributing and giving back. So you don't have to go into this with the widest network in the world. You do have to go into it being open and willing to put in the work to have those conversations. But I think a lot of people fall down in just the ability to have that elevator pitch of, here's what I want to do, and it can be hard, right? Because sometimes you may not care about the industry. You may not care about the company size, but you want to work someplace where there's good people and there's a good culture. But you know what? You can't identify that outside in. So you got to help other people by giving them something tangible that they can do to help you.
That's exactly. I actually had a story, this almost exact story earlier today. I got connected. A buddy of mine, another executive, asked me to talk to a recent college grad who's trying to figure out his next steps. So I'm like, sure, hop on a call with the guy. Young guy, 22 years old. And I'm like, so what do you want to do? He's like, software engineering. I'm like, okay, like, what does that mean? He's like, engineering. And I stopped him and I was like, listen, man, I'm sure you're having a lot of these conversations through people that you know. And every conversation goes like this. Hey, it was really great to meet you. Let me know how I can be helpful. He goes, yeah. I'm like, that's because you don't stand out. There are so many people who are being let go from tech organizations that have lots of experience. And now you're competing with somebody who's overqualified and yada, yada, yada. And I'm like, what do you want to do? And we finally got to and we just cracked the door open of he's like, I'd want to do something that's more like B2C, building something for, I'm like, cool, go into that. Like, what does that mean? And so I gave him some homework so that he can craft that pitch and come back to me. Cause I told him, like, you don't stand out right now and you need to figure a way to pop, right? Yep. Something that's going to be like, oh, Bob, that's not his name, is this really smart, energetic dude who wants to do something in software engineering, focus on B2C and finance. Cause then that gives me triggers, right? So to your point, like, you have to give people triggers to think about you.
You do. Absolutely. Any other advice you'd have for earlier in career folks, Anthony?
Yeah. So this is going to sound really weird. And I did this when I started the company. So I'm an extroverted introvert, right? So I will go out and talk and do things, and then I need to go back and recharge. But when I was trying to figure out how to talk about what Delve Risk was and what we did. I actually went to a cyber conference focused on government. So a target market that I knew I did not want to sell. I didn't care about selling, right? And people were like, well, why are you going to waste your day there? I spent a whole day doing bad pitches, right? And I would just walk up to people and be like, what do you do? And I'm like, and then I'm like, I screwed that up. And I would just walk off, right? Like it was literally, it was brutal, right?
It was your burner conference.
It was, right? And so like, I think that if you're not good at networking or you're more introverted and you're like, hey, how do I do this? Go meet people at a conference or an event that you don't give a shit about, right? Yeah. And just go and talk to people, figure out your little pitch of how you connect, right? There's probably a healthcare or a dental conference or whatever it is. Like just go there and just meet people because they are in that mode to network and meet as well. And it's a no harm, no foul kind of situation. You don't even have to tell anybody. Just go back home, lick your wounds, right? And you're going to get better at it. Like it only gets better by like practicing. So that would be my thing. Like go find somewhere where you can fail and just bomb out and be okay with that because you'll build the skills.
Nothing to make you better at something than messing up a few times and learning from it. 100%.
I'm telling you, I spent 8 hours like all day at this GovCon thing, and people are like, "So who did you sell?" I'm like, "No, I don't even sell to government." Like they're like, "Why are you here?" I'm like, "I'm just practicing my pitch." They're like, "That's interesting, right?" Like,
and then they're probably like, "I like this guy. He's a little crazy."
It was cool, right? Like there were a couple people that are like, I respect that. Like, okay, yeah, I like that, right? But you can do this to build that networking skill, right?
Yeah.
And there's actually some new applications, new apps that are coming out. The one I'm super excited about is, have you seen Clay?
I have not.
I think it's clay.earth. Are you an iPhone guy or an Android guy?
I'm an Android guy. I'm
I'm an Android guy too. They've only built this for iPhone, and it's like a personal CRM. Connects to your text messages, your LinkedIn, emails, and it gives you updates on like prompts. And apparently it's amazing, but they haven't built the Android piece yet. There's a web interface, but like those types of tools that are coming out, if I was an iPhone person, I'd definitely be checking it out.
Cool.
I'll look at it, but you have to actively manage your network.
You do. All right, Anthony. Well, maybe to round us out, we'll close these shows with top 3 pieces of advice. If you had to kind of distill it down to your top 3 pieces of advice for networking for job seekers, what would they be?
I would say go find somewhere to fail. And I think that's a really, really important one. I think you have to be super purposeful, right? And then just network and talk with everybody. Like be open to the universe.
Get out there, do it. And I found if you put good things out into the universe, good things will come back to you.
I absolutely agree. Anything I missed? Any top items that you're like, hey, got to add this one in there before we wrap up?
I think we got it. All right.
Awesome.
Well, everyone, thanks for joining us. As always, Hack and Hustle is brought to you by Crux, the talent marketplace for cybersecurity.
And by Delve Risk, the intelligence platform, market research platform for cybersecurity sales and marketing.
If you have any questions you'd like to have answered or topics you'd like us to cover, drop us a line at pod@crux.so. Thanks, and we'll see you here next week.